Chase Chrisley came up with an interesting name for his father. It's no surprise that he likes to snark on his dad. As TV shows Ace previously reported, he also rips on his sister quite often. Chase recently gave his sister the side eye during their tropical vacation. However, there are moments when he'll surprise his family. In a previous episode, he complimented his sister even though it wasn't much of one. Fans learned that he gets some of his qualities from his mother, Julie Chrisley. Of course, there will be times when the reality star has his moments. On Friday, September 24, the official Chrisley Knows Best Instagram account shared a post from the latest episode of the USA show. The series shows Chase Chrisley talking to his sister, Savannah Chrisley. The two are discussing their famous father, Todd Chrisley. During the scene, Chase compared their dad to a tornado. In the scene, Savannah wore a print blouse while Chase kept it casual in a gray t-shirt. The blonde Southern beauty told him, "You just have to learn to ignore Daddy." Apparently, Chase is upset with something that Todd said. He responded, "Ignoring Dad is like ignoring a tornado. You just can't do it." Savannah turned to her brother and responded, "Fair point." Most fans would agree that Todd is like a tornado. You wouldn't want to upset him. He's not the type to forgive and forget quickly. If you did something wrong, he will constantly remind you about it. Everyone can see that the patriarch is kind of like a storm brewing on the family's reality show. Even the Chrisley Knows Best Instagram account wrote, "There's no avoiding at Todd Chrisley. Hashtag Chrisley Knows Best." This post got a good laugh out of the fans. Most of them took to the post to share their thoughts. Some of them left laughing emojis. Others loved the banter between Chase and Savannah Chrisley. Some Chrisley Knows Best fans took it one step further. They compared Todd Chrisley to a hurricane instead. One wrote, "Hurricane Todd." Here are just some of the comments from that post. One fan wanted to know where Savannah got her beautiful blouse. Another argued that Todd should back off on his kids more. They feel that Nanny Faye and Julie should give him a dose of his own reality. A second user empathized with Todd, saying that he was only nervous for his son, which is a normal coping mechanism. What are your thoughts? Do you think Todd is like a storm? Or do you feel that his parenting is normal? Sound off below in the comments. Check back with TV shows Ace for more news on Chase Chrisley and the rest of the Chrisley Knows Best crew. When it comes to family dynamics, the Chrisleys have never shied away from turbulence. From glitzy reality TV moments to real-life legal storms, Chrisley Knows Best often felt more like a pressure cooker than a primetime sitcom. But in a rare moment of candid reflection, Chase Chrisley recently likened his father Todd Chrisley to something unexpected: a tornado. And while at first glance it might sound like a jab, the metaphor turns out to be more nuanced than the tabloids would have you believe. Let's be clear, Chase didn't roll out this metaphor in a press conference or a dramatic on-camera monologue. Instead, it emerged in a quiet conversation with a close friend, later echoed in an interview with a podcast host. "If I had to describe my dad in one word," Chase said, pausing for effect, "I'd call him a tornado. You hear him before you see him. And once he hits, you just hope to hang on and survive it." That might sound like a slam, an emotional gut punch from son to father. But in the context of Chase's upbringing, the description is surprisingly layered. The tornado comparison doesn't just speak to Todd Chrisley's forceful personality or commanding presence. It encapsulates the whirlwind of charm, chaos, discipline, and love that has defined their complicated father-son relationship. The eye of the storm growing up in the Chrisley household was no quiet affair. Todd, a self-described perfectionist and image-conscious entrepreneur, ran his home like a five-star hotel, with daily inspections, ironed pillowcases, and punishments for anyone who dared mess with the aesthetic. He didn't just set the rules, he was the rules. Chase remembers it vividly, the early mornings that began with chore lists and motivational lectures. Todd was always moving, always directing, always fine-tuning the world around him to fit his vision of perfection. It didn't matter if you were 5 or 15. You knew when Todd Chrisley entered the room. His energy shifted the entire house. Like a tornado, Todd was impossible to ignore. And like a tornado, his path left things different. Not always destroyed, but definitely rearranged. He could be calm 1 second and spinning the next, Chase recalled. But there was always this eye in the storm. Those moments when you catch him looking at you and you knew, without him saying it, that he'd do anything for you, even if he had a wild way of showing it. A force of nature. There's something undeniably compelling about a man who commands attention merely by stepping into a room. That was Todd's trademark. Whether he was entertaining dinner guests or grilling his children over a B+ on a math test, he demanded focus. But like a tornado, Todd wasn't one note. Yes, he was intense, but he was also dazzlingly charismatic. The same force that could demolish your teenage ego with a single glare could also wrap you in a bear hug 5 minutes later and tell you how proud he was, even if you hadn't earned it in his eyes. Dad didn't do anything halfway, Chase said. If he was mad, you knew. If he loved you, you really knew. He wasn't the kind of dad who left notes in your lunchbox. He was the kind of dad who would call your teacher himself to negotiate your grade. And while the Chrisley children may have rolled their eyes at the theatrics, they also came to rely on the consistency of the chaos. There was comfort in Todd's storms, predictable unpredictability, if you will. The destruction and the rebuilding, of course. No metaphor is perfect. And there's a darker side to the tornado analogy that can't be ignored. Todd's intensity wasn't always harmless. His high expectations and unrelenting drive often created pressure cooker conditions for his family. Mistakes weren't just lessons, they were scandals. Failures weren't stepping stones, they were catastrophes. And the Chrisley image? That had to remain pristine, no matter what was happening behind closed doors. This perfection at all costs mentality, many believe, contributed to the family's eventual legal troubles. The facade began to crack, revealing a storm far more dangerous than reality TV ever captured. Fraud charges, tax evasion, and the fall from grace. Todd and Julie's eventual sentencing was the kind of drama that even the best reality TV producers couldn't script. Chase, caught in the whirlwind, had to reckon with the father he idolized and the consequences of his tornado-like path. Some storms you don't see coming until they're already ripping the roof off, Chase admitted. But even in all of that, I never doubted his love for us. I doubted his choices, sure, but never his love. The aftermath now, with Todd serving his sentence and the family scattered across different coasts and emotional distances, the dust has begun to settle. For Chase, the process of healing means revisiting the whirlwind, learning from it without being consumed by it. It's easy to focus on the damage a tornado causes, but as any storm chaser will tell you, tornadoes are also strangely beautiful. They are expressions of energy, power, and passion. Dangerous, yes, but also deeply awe-inspiring. And that's how Chase chooses to see his father now. Not as a perfect man, but as a powerful one. Not as a villain, but as a complicated force of nature who loved deeply, lived loudly, and lost control in ways that hurt the very people he tried to protect. I wouldn't be who I am without him, Chase said. The good, the bad, the lessons, the pain. It all shaped me. And yeah, sometimes it felt like being hit by a tornado. But I survived it. And maybe even learned to fly in the wind. A legacy in the debris. What does it mean to grow up in the path of a tornado and come out the other side? For Chase, it means learning that love doesn't always come gently. It means recognizing that strength and damage often come from the same place. It means finding your own footing after being lifted off the ground for most of your life. But most of all, it means realizing that you don't have to become the storm that raised you. In recent years, Chase has stepped out of his father's shadow. He's forged his own identity, both personally and professionally. From business ventures to real estate and personal growth journeys shared on social media, he's proving that surviving the storm isn't the same as becoming it. Still, there are moments, flashes of intensity, of overprotectiveness, of stubborn pride, where he catches a glimpse of Todd in the mirror, and instead of flinching, he nods. I get it now, he said. The storm wasn't just destruction. It was direction. It blew away what didn't matter and left us with what did. Final thoughts when Chrisley compares his father to a tornado? It's not an insult. It's a tribute, complicated and honest, to a man who was never lukewarm, never forgettable, never silent. Todd Chrisley may have spun too fast, too far, and too often, but he left an indelible mark on his family, on television, and on the son who still walks through the aftermath with equal parts pride and pain. And perhaps, in some strange way, that's what being a father really is, not getting everything right, but leaving behind a wind strong enough to carry your children forward.